Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Todd's Pod. Um, my studio is not yet complete, ready to be in there. Next week, I should be pretty much done with it. I'll be far enough along that we will have my podcast in my new studio, um, and I will get back on track with my guest. So, today I wanted to talk about some of the results of recovery. What do we get when we enter into recovery? And that's recovery from any number of things. It just doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. Well, we get vision. Vision's a big thing because in our addiction, in our addictions, our alcoholism or whatever, our weight loss journeys, whatever those journeys, whatever we need to recover from, as we're in those, we have thoughts and visions and things we want to do and all these grand illusions, but that's all they are. They're just pretty much illusions. It's hard to accomplish those things when we're still suffering. But when we get recovered from that hopeless state of mind and body that we're in, uh, our dreams change, our hopes, our wants, they all change from things that were not attainable or we weren't able to do to things that we can do. Um, I had a vision of a new meeting room. I shared that vision along with several other individuals through a recovery place, an opportunity recovery group, and what you see behind me, that's our big meeting room. It's pretty amazing, as you can see. I don't know if you've been following me on Facebook as far as our YouTube, as far as the progress of everything, but it's been a journey. And we're not done yet. We still have a long way to go, but we are open and having meetings and welcoming new groups all the time. And so, that being said, this is one of those things. Had I not been in recovery, whatever I chose to do, anything like this, something on such a large scale, it probably would not have been attainable for me or for those that I were involved with because, quite frankly, when you're not in recovery, when you're still out there suffering, the people that you're around are probably still suffering too. So, all the good intentions in the world are very hard to follow through with. Um, but anyway, so uh, I used to write um, prior to my recovery, and I actually wrote a book at one point, and I'm still trying to decipher my writing. That's how bad it was. Another gift that we get when we become a little bit more stable in our mental health and our substance abuse and all those things are behind us is the ability to write things that are different, things we can actually read. you know, and I wrote a poem that I'm going to share with you. My wife says it's one of her favorites of mine, but that is one of the things that I have started doing in my recovery that, you know, everybody tells me they're good, but, we're our own worst critics. So this one is kind of meaningful for me today because of where I'm at, what I'm doing, what my life looks like moving forward, as far as I've came. It's titled Why I Live. And here we go. Too many times I glimpsed hell's flame, lost in shadows, buried in shame. I walked through the streets where hope won't dwell, where silence screams and sorrow fell. The hardest school with lessons grim, where faith seemed faint and love grew dim. I bore the scars, I wore the chain, each breath a prayer, each step in pain. Unaware the light stood near, God was whispering through every tear. Though I stumbled, lost in strife, He breathed in me a second life. The choice was mine, the sting of mace, or bow before the throne of grace. And grace I chose, through though weak and worn, from ashes rose, reborn, reborn. Today I stand no longer blind, the past behind, with peace I find. First in line to face the fight, for souls still groping in the night. I lead them out with lantern raised, not for glory, not for praise, but because I know what mercy gives. This is my purpose. This is why I live. So that is my purpose in a nutshell. Is to help others. I spent the majority of my life taking, not giving. And so now at this point in my life, I know that the entirety of what I have left on this earth is going to be used to give back and to help others. It is a passion of mine that many people that know me know that that's really my concern is how can I be of service to my fellow man or woman, whatever the case might be. And it's amazing to know that I can. I actually can do these things. When I tell you that I will do something, I generally will get it done or do my best to get it done. If I tell you I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm generally there at that time. These are all things that we don't do prior to recovery. Another gift of recovery is restoration of families. I have a great relationship with my family now, which is something that I didn't have prior. I have a sister that her and I get along very well, and it's amazing the relationship that we've developed. I have other family members that, not so much yet, but I do look forward to the time coming when we can have those relationships. As far as like children, grandchildren, I'm even a great grandfather now. Those relationships have all been restored. They would not have been restored if I hadn't chosen the path that I chose. So I guess, I'm probably going to ramble. I'm trying not to ramble. But, it's a peace of mind that comes to you that is amazing. And I was watching a movie last night with a friend of mine about recovery and The Day of the Wine and Roses. It's an interesting film. I recommend it to those of you out there that are in the same crowd that I'm in as far as recovery. But if you're not in recovery, you probably won't quite get the movie. It won't have the same impact. It'll probably confuse you a little bit. But I noticed they showed a meeting in this movie, and one of the things that stood out to me was that nobody in the meeting was smiling. They were all very, very just staunch and serious looking. And yes, there's a lot of meetings out there that are like that. But there's a lot of joy in recovery. There's a lot of fun in recovery. I've had more fun in the last 7.5 years than I've had combined, before. I mean, I did a lot of things in my life that I enjoyed and things, but it's a different kind of joy. I was probably 2 months sober before I really experienced this kind of joy that I have now. It's different. It's not the same. And when it happens, it's amazing to feel that joy and heart. It's amazing to feel the power of God move through us. And, if we will allow Him, we become vessels of His grace, I suppose. And I am very amazed in the ways that He uses me. I say God, other people say other things. That's fine. I'm not here to try to force you to call your God my God, or me call my God your God. That's not what I'm here about. I'm here about helping others with grace, and my God helps me tremendously along those paths. I got a lot of changes coming on the horizon. My employment status is going to change, and that's a little bit, it's a little bit different, especially for me, but I've noticed that I did a thing the other day about self-doubt, because, we sometimes doubt ourselves, but I know the path that I'm on, and I know that the path that I'm on is ordained by God. It's a path that God's led me to, and He's leading me down. That's another gift of recovery that people don't understand sometimes, is that we have clarity of mind. Clarity is what it's all about. Basically, when people get high or they get drunk or whatever they do, it's to change the way that they feel, to change the way that they interact. And I believe, it's a desperate attempt to interact, just to be part of a community, just to be, able to connect with others, because we are humans and that's kind of our thing, right? But in sobriety, I found clarity. And clarity allows me to talk to anybody at any time, and look them in the eyes. That's something else. There's this clarity we get is amazing, and it gives us strength. We learn that we actually have something to say. Everybody has something to say, and when we come at it from a perspective of recovery rather than not being recovered, we tend to get a little bit further with our thoughts, and people tend to give us a little bit more credence, rightfully so. Totally understand. Uh, you know, I after I got sober, I talked to probably, I'm just like every other guy out there, or woman or whatever. I didn't think anybody really could tell. I thought I hit it well. I spoke with probably 6 different people that probably did not know each other, and they all said the exact same thing to me within a minute of the conversation. Uh, and it was, hey, I can understand you now. And I'm like, what do you mean you can understand me now? And they're like, well, we couldn't understand a word you were saying before. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I didn't know that. Uh, that's something we don't know. We don't realize. We don't realize that people, we think nobody knows, but everybody knows, especially, you know, especially now with me being where I'm at now, when I see somebody that is not sober per se or clean, it's pretty obvious. But I guarantee that individual thinks that you can't tell, because I walked around in this delusion that I was hiding it from everybody, and that I was able to maintain this lifestyle that I was living, which really I was just lying to myself. Um, Health is another thing that we get when we recover. My health has returned in amazing ways. I can actually, I can actually go to the doctor and not worry too much about what they're going to tell me, because I know that my health is pretty good right now. So that's another. I've even going to the doctor. It's something you don't do before you become sober or recovered. That's another thing. We don't take care of ourselves at all. Uh, the drug or the alcohol is more important than us eating. It's more important than us doing anything. It's more important than family. It becomes more important than everything. And when that gets put aside, then everything else that should have been important to us becomes important. Um, I eat too much. yeah, I try to control it, and sometimes it's like, man, come on, really? I never thought that I would gain weight the way that I gained weight. So I worked really hard for a long time to lose weight. Then I gained a little weight. It's battles like that I can handle. Um, it's the other battles, the prior battles that destroyed me. And unfortunately, uh, that destructive effect was a ripple. Um, that was a massive, massive destructive wave, and it destroyed everything it touched. You know, thank God that most of the people in my life were very strong, and they were able to hang in there, I guess, or pray for me, or whatever they did, because now we're all in a pretty good place that we wouldn't be. That's another thing, that we don't create those destructions anymore. I don't create problems as much. I'm sure I probably create some, but I don't create the problems that I created before. If I take my family somewhere, I'll usually stay with my family there, instead of, I got to go to the store for a little bit, and you might see me when it's time to go home. That's a real story. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about myself. My children and my wife, everybody informed me that, when we'd go to the lake or we'd go camping, that I would generally almost always have to go to the store, and they didn't know when I would come back. And I didn't realize that. I didn't even, until I thought about it, I thought, wait a minute, I didn't do that. Well, come to find out I did. As I look back on it, I'm like, wow, what kind of person does that? Well, an addict alcoholic does that. That's what we do. We pick those things over family. We want to try to act like we're all this, but we're really not at that time. So that's another gift of sobriety that we get, is that we get to be present. We're present. We're in the moment. We enjoy life. So, you don't think of recovery as being something that is unhappy or hard, because it is so happy and so joyous. And the fellowship in the community, that's the important part, is community. If you try to white knuckle it and get sober on your own, and you don't surround yourself with community, yes, you're going to be probably pretty miserable. But if you develop friends, and you meet people, and you have this community that you can lean on, there's people that I can call anytime that I need them, just to talk. Hey, this problem or that problem, and they're there for me, and vice versa. but if you try to do it alone, it's very, very hard. I'm not saying it can't be done. There's people out there that have done it on their own and they white knuckle it through and they make it. I don't know how happy they are, but if you really want to be happy, joyous, and free, find a room like this. Not just like this, but a room. You know, I've been to meetings in barns. I've been to all kinds of meetings in all kinds of places. So it doesn't have to be a fancy room. It doesn't have to be. It could be anywhere. Find a meeting. Go to a meeting. Talk to people. You know, listen and hear. You know, when you go to a meeting, you know, you hear people all the well, I went to that meeting, there wasn't enough, you know, blah blah. It was full of crap. Well, you know what? Probably half the stuff you hear in a meeting may not be so good. It may not be so healthy. It's that one little tidbit that you'll hear. It's that one little thing that you'll hear that you can take with you that you'll use and that'll mean something to you. You know, there's always. I've never been to a meeting that I wasn't able to find a little something, and I've been to some really crazy meetings that you wouldn't think there would be anything in there, but there's always something in there. And a lot of times, it's a newcomer that says something that I didn't think about, and I'm like, oh wow, I never thought of that. Well, I can take that and put that in my toolbox and have it with me and move forward from there. The meetings are important. Community is important. Sponsorship's important. The 12 steps extremely important in my opinion, but there are recovery programs out there that don't use the 12 steps. They probably use some variety of it, but there's all kinds of recovery. It doesn't have to be AA, NACA, any of those things. It can be whatever works for you, because I guarantee you that your path is going to be unlike any others. But there will be similarities. That's another thing when you go to a meeting. Don't look at the differences like that guy over there is this or he's that, and that was not my choices. Listen to the similarities, because there'll be parts of those stories that are similar. The movie that I was telling you about that I watched last night, I think it was made in 1960. Okay, watching that movie and seeing those people, the similarities were amazing, and that's 65 years ago. But the stories are still true today. The things we do, it's not ever exactly the same, but the similarities are there. So when you go to a meeting, if you wonder if you need a meeting or if you have a problem, listen for those similarities. And you'll find that, hey, you know what, that guy, you know, he's kind of done some of the same things I have, and that's probably the guy to talk to, and he can probably help you. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. I just want y'all to know that next week, my podcast will be back at 10 a.m. I'll be in my studio, regardless of if it's complete or not. I'll have my guest next week. I'll get back on track, so we'll start having a regular guest every week, and we are going to talk about everything in recovery. My website is opportunityrecoverygroup.com. And if you'll scroll down to the bottom of that website, there's a little area that you can fill out an information tab, and you can fill that out. And if you have any kind of subjects or anything you want me to talk about on my podcast, feel free to shoot me a message. You can do it through Facebook or any of those social medias where you see me. If there's anything you want discussed or any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to me. Y'all have a great week and be blessed, and I'll look forward to seeing y'all next week. Bye-bye.